Hey folks, welcome back to another review with yours truly, Sam Healey. Today we're taking a look at this big fella right here, Wasteland Express Delivery Service. Now, this is, generally speaking, a pick up and deliver game that is set in a post-apocalyptic dystopia. And so, it doesn't really kind of seem like it would work, because those are two things that usually don't really kind of match together very well, but that's generally speaking what you do. There is some combat thrown in there where you can try to pillage different raider enclaves, and you're going to be fighting with some raider trucks and stuff like that. But generally speaking, at its core, it's a pick up and deliver, mod up your truck a little bit, and try to be the first person to get some contracts done. So let's get down to the table. I'll show you how it works. More often than not, the point of the game is going to be the first person whoever is able to finish all three of these priority first class contracts. And basically these are big goals that you're trying to accomplish as you're going through the wasteland, living, delivering, buying cargo, fighting off raiders, and all this other kind of stuff. And they're basically large goals that you're trying to accomplish. There are other jobs that you can do from each of the different factions that are represented in the wasteland, and they will help you along that route, basically, of working towards finishing these. Now, basically, the first thing you're going to do in the game is determine who you're going to be in the wasteland. You're going to be choosing one of these player boards, and then along with the player boards, you get the 3 standees that are going to be used to be placed on the first priority contracts, the priority first class contracts, sorry. You're also going to be getting 10 scrap to start the game with that are, basically all this is just like just regular shapes, like a piece of sheet metal and, you know, a disc, a CD or something like that. You're also going to be getting 5 action tokens, which you're going to be using during the course of the rounds to mark where you have done certain activities and what kind of activities you can do. And this denotes a couple of things. First of all, it's how many times you can move throughout the course of your turn, how many times you can purchase, deliver, do outpost actions, and then how many times you can pillage throughout the course of a turn. Also over here is your vehicle and where you're going to be storing the different resources that you're picking up from one place and transporting to another. This is a general storage token, which means that basically food and water can be placed in here. This is weapons storage, so only ammunition tokens can be placed in here. So that's also cool. Now, here are additional spaces where you can buy more modifications for your vehicle. Now, up here is the cab where you can put a defense or an armor token, and that is specifically denoted there, but any kind of upgrade or modification can be put back here, including, as you can see, this little outcut here, place for you to put another trailer. So there is that. Also a place for a bonus action. We'll talk about all these these actions later, but I'm just trying to show you the player board first. If you don't like the bandit, there are other kinds of people that you can be. For example, you can be Tweak here and his very huge war truck, or you can be Zero like that, or you can be the Fallen, which uses a huge decked out school bus. You can be Big John, which looks like a Mad Max version of Optimus Prime, basically. And then you also have Gat. So there you have it. Those are the different people that you can be. You're also going to start with a standee, which basically denotes that you cannot deliver to a specific place again. So once you deliver somewhere, this is going to go into that area, and then you'll have to deliver somewhere else first before you can go back to that place. Now, when you go to an outpost, you can do certain actions that are there based upon what's on the actual tile. So, for example, here at the dispatch, you can either perform a purchase action, which is purchasing weapons for $3 each, which means that you can purchase any number of these little black miniature tokens here for $3 a piece. And the restrictions that you have there is, of course, you have to have place on your vehicle to store them. So you have to have one of those weapon storage modifications for your truck for each one that you have. Then you can also purchase as many as you can afford. So that's kind of common knowledge and common sense, but I figured I'd mention it. The other thing you could do while you're at an outpost is take an outpost action, which is usually denoted on the other side of the tile. And for example, here you can spend $7 and, well, for the first one at least, and purchase an artifact. We'll talk about how artifacts are purchased later on, but if you come to dispatch here, it's $7 or more, and you'll understand that a little bit later. Now, it is also possible for you to be at a location where a demand counter is. And if you are there, then you can use this to perform a deliver action, which means that you're going to take the guns that you purchased here and sell them to Silo 42, part of the New Republic Army. When you do that, you have to use the market. When you purchase something, when you're delivering it, you're going to be delivering it for the price that it is currently worth based on the demand. And demand is based upon how many outposts have this demand in their slot currently. So right now, ammunition starts at 4, but there are 4 outposts that are looking for ammunition, so we move it up to 4, which means that its demand is currently at 8. So what this means if you deliver here is that each ammo or each weapon crate that you deliver to Silo 42, you're going to get $8 for each token. So if you sell 2 of them, then you're going to get 16. If you only sell 1, you get 8, so forth and so on. Now, once you deliver, this is going to go away and be replaced by another token. So, for example, this stays right there. So, instead of going down because one demand token had been taken off, it actually stays there because this demand is ammunition and food. But food will not stay at 6, it'll rise to 7 because now it has another demand token on the board. Now, while we're looking at the market board, we're also going to talk about these artifacts that are here. As I denoted earlier, you had to spend $7 or more, 7 scrap or more. And that's because when you purchase one at 7, it raises the price to 8. And so then to buy this one, you have to spend 8 scrap. And then to purchase this one, you have to spend another 8 scrap. And so forth and so on. And so when somebody else comes, they're going to have to start off with 9. And that's how this market also fluctuates. Now, one final thing that I did not mention earlier is that when you are at one of these places to buy resources, it also changes. So when you purchase here, that will go away and will be replaced by something else. Here in this case, the price just went up, but you have a number of different things that are going on here. So you have those, and then you can also have all of these as well. So food, water, and guns are the different resources that you're going to be trading and selling. And you can see those right here in the tray. Now on your turn, you have basically just a number of different things that you can do. But you can only do one thing, generally speaking, on your turn. There is a way for you to do 2 things, and we'll get to that in just a moment. But the first thing you can do is move your truck. Then you can attack raiders if you are in the same spot as if you're on the same terrain tile as a raider truck, or if you're going to pillage one of the raider enclaves. You can also purchase cargo, which we already talked about as we were talking about the different outposts that are there. You can also deliver cargo, which we already mentioned. You can also activate an outpost, which we also already mentioned. To move in the Wasteland, you're going to have to use these action tokens, and you would simply use it by going here first. Now, there is a thing called momentum in movement, where if the only thing you do on your turn is moving, on your next turn, you can then move another. Now, the bandit is kind of different because his special ability here says that he moves up to 4 spaces on your first movement. So, most of the other player boards, though, have a 3 right here. So the first move would only be a 3 for them, and then the second move they do, using momentum, would be a 4, and then a third move in consecutive order would be, they'd be able to move up to 5. All right, so that's if you don't do anything else other than move. Now, there is a way for you to do more than one thing on your action, and that is by simply you move. So I would be able to move 4 spaces. So I'd be able to do 1, 2, 3, 4 if I wanted to do it that way. But let's say I didn't want to move 4, I just wanted to move 3. I could go 1, 2, 3, and then immediately take this over to the purchase. And then I'd be able to carry out that purchase icon action there. But let's say that on a future action now, I want to move again, and it just so happens that there's a pretty good synergy going on right here. So I can move on my next turn and go 1, 2, 3, and then take this and go to deliver. And then I'd be able to deliver and sell the ammunition that I just bought at the dispatch to Silo 42. And this would change as I showed earlier. Now, if I wanted to do an outpost action, I would be able to go here, move 4. I could go 1, 2, 3. It's up to 4. You don't ever have to move your maximum. Now, when I move past a terrain tile or through a terrain tile where there's a raider truck, I have to basically roll this yellow die. And if it's possible, I'm going to possibly take damage here. Okay, I didn't, but if I were to roll a hit icon, then I would have to take one of these damage tokens and place it on one of my areas down here. I can place it on an area that doesn't have a modification, which means that I would have to heal that area before I could place a modification there. I could place it here, which means that I wouldn't be able to carry water or food until I healed this. If I chose to place it on a cargo area that was carrying something, then I would have to discard that cargo. Or I could just place it on one of these available spaces, which means that it's unavailable until it's healed and becomes available again. So that's if you move through a terrain that has a raider truck. But now I'm at Delos over here, and I want to do a outpost action, which means that I'd be able to go to the mod shop. Now, when you go to the mod shop, you can purchase, generally speaking, any number of these things, although there are some of these that are not available at the mod shop. They're only available in certain areas. For example, the rad shield is only available in the new Chernobyl outpost, and so forth and so on. Now, you can purchase general modifications like more general storage, more weapons storage. You can purchase a machine gun. The machine gun will actually add 1 hit to the final result of your combat roll, and we'll get to combat in just a little while. The gunner here actually allows you to actually add a die to the number of dice you roll in combat. The turbo here gives you 1 more additional space of movement during your movement action. The armor is basically whenever you take damage, you can take damage on the armor, and then the second damage will actually destroy it. You can also take a sleeper cab, which allows you to take an additional ally. Allies are basically people that will join you on your quest, and they'll provide you with certain kinds of bonuses during different actions. And so here, Deadeye allows you to spend 1 less scrap on cargo purchases, whereas another ally that comes up here, the Grease Monkey, is -2 on mod shop visits, and so forth and so on. Now, you can also purchase temporary modifications, which are these right down here. So you can purchase a delivery bonus, which will give you plus $5 whenever you deliver, and then it would immediately go away. You can purchase an escort, which basically allows you to teleport to anywhere you want to go in the Wasteland, which is very useful. Then you also can purchase these missiles that will basically add 2 hits to the final result of your die roll during combat. So that's what the mod shop is, and that's where you really start getting into a lot of the different differences, the different differences between you and other players, because you will modify your vehicle much different than somebody else will. Now, normal combat works this way. So basically, if I want to move in here and combat the 9-9 Raider Enclave, I would first of all have to use a movement to do that, and then I would move that token straight up to this combat row here. Now, what I would do here is I would take a card from the Raider Enclave and flip it over. Now, what this does is it gives me, first of all, his defense value, which means that I have to get 7 or more in order to pillage the Raider Enclave here. I would have to do that. I only start with 2 dice, which is impossible because the highest that I could roll is 2 3s. But you come back to those different modifications where a gunner will help me add 1 die, and then a machine gun will help me add more damage to the attack as well. And then you also have the different missiles, for example here, and if I have a temporary missile here, I could also add 2 to my combat roll. So with all of this here, I'd be rolling 3 dice. I would commit this just to try to be on the safe side, because you have to do it before the roll. So I have 2 hits already, and then I have a +1 over here. So that's 3, and I got to roll my dice and see what happens. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I equaled that, which means that this would then go up to the pillage area here. I would be able to take 1 food and 1 weapon for successfully pillaging them. That would go here, and this would go here, and then this would go on the bottom of the deck. Now, there is a second way for you to get into combat, and that is through a Raider truck ambush. So on someone else's turn, for example, Big John here, he wants to move 3 spaces, and he ends his space in the 9-9 area, which means that he can move the 9-9 Raider truck to an adjacent terrain tile from where it is. So he's here, he can move it either here, or he can move it either up here. Of course, since I'm there, he's going to want to move it there, and that means that I'm going to be ambushed by this truck, which means that I take one of these Raider truck cards and I turn it over. Now, what that does is, just like with the Raider Enclave cards, it gives me a defense value, and it also tells me what's going to be loaded back into this truck if I successfully defend myself. So, just like regular combat, I would take the number of dice that I'm allocated, which means I get 3, which is right there. And then I'm also going to add 1. This was used in the Raider Enclave, so I don't have that anymore. So I'm just basically rolling 3 dice plus 1 to try to get 4 or more. And so I rolled 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I definitely defeated him, which means that if I'm able to, I can take these resources out of the truck and put them in here. But since I don't have the space, they would actually have to go away. And then this up here tells me what gets reloaded. Now, had I not won, I would basically be taking a damage to somewhere on my truck. And that's basically how you play Wasteland Express Delivery Service. The first person, like I said, to finish 3 priority first class contracts is the winner. So that is Wasteland Express Delivery Service. And I have to tell you, I didn't know if I was going to like this very much because, well, first of all, I saw the box and I was like, wow, that looks like a cool game. But then I found out that, hey, this is pick up and deliver. Not too hot on picking up and delivering things the entire game. But then I heard that, okay, there's some combat in there. Okay, I'll be able to mix it up with my other folks. No, you won't actually even be able to combat your other players. You're just combating the different raider enclaves and the different raider trucks. Oh, man. So I was up in Canada at Snakes and Lattes during the gathering, and Jonathan Gilmore was there. He's one of the guys that put this game together, basically with the other 2 designers. And he was like, hey, let me show you this game. And at that point, it hadn't been released yet, so I was like, yeah, let's give it a whirl. I like doing that. So he showed us how to play the game, and about halfway through, I was loving it. Loving it, because there's just enough theme wrapped around this game to make it not feel like just a pick up and deliver game. There's a whole lot of thematic connect in the different job cards that you can be doing. There's connections with the different priority contracts that you can be doing. All of this background fluff just makes it come alive a little bit more, and it doesn't feel like just a pick up and deliver game. There's also combat in it, which is cool. Another cool thing about the combat is that it's not convoluted, it's not difficult. It's quite simply roll equal to or higher than whatever the defense of the person you're attacking is. And there are variants too in the rulebook that allow you to have a little bit of a meaner game, and you can actually attack other players' trucks while you're in the same space, and so forth and so on. So there's ways for you to kind of tailor the game to how you want to play it. So that's a cool thing as well. Another thing that the rulebook has in it are these different campaign modes that you can have. And the first mission is Welcome to the Wasteland. Second one is the secret mission, Less Than Dead. I don't want to show you these things in depth, but you can play it in campaign mode. So that's pretty cool as well. There's a number of different things in the rulebook that just help you immerse yourself into this world that they have created, if that's what you want. Now, the market is probably not a new concept. The markets have been used in a lot of other games, but this one was a really neat one. Whenever you deliver something that was a demand, that demand token goes away and is replaced by something else, and that makes the market fluctuate. So that was a cool addition as well. Artifacts, I like the fact that the artifacts were computer chips that are, of course, probably not that useful any longer, at least in this timeline. And so that was interesting as well. I liked a whole lot of things. Now, I do need to say this. The miniatures that are in this game have been painted by Vernon Piper. These do not come this way. They're just plastic colors, like this gray plastic that's on the bottom here. That's the color that they all come in. So there is that. And of course, these have not been painted. These do come in green, blue, and then black for the different resources that you're going to be picking up and delivering. The use of the scrap as money, I thought that was a really cool thematic connection there. They don't have actual currency. They have these different pieces of scrap metal and different pieces of junk that they just find that have been arbitrarily given a value now. So I thought that was an interesting thing as well. That's really neat. The dice are a little bit more angular than I usually like dice, but they are good dice, and they're etched in. They're not printed on faces or anything like that. So they are also cool. Now, one thing that I didn't mention in the overview was the rad dye, this purple dye that has the green faces. Whenever you go through a territory that has a radiation symbol on it, this guy right here, then whenever you move through that, you have to roll the rad die. If a rad symbol comes up, then you have to take a damage on your truck unless you've already purchased a rad shield from New Chernobyl. If you've done that, then you can willy-nilly travel through nuclear zones as much as you want to, but I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that. Back to my final thoughts, I really enjoy this game. It's a little bit longer than I want it to go, which basically means I probably won't ever play it with 5 players. I've played it with 4. I haven't played it with 5 yet just because I don't want to, because with 4 players, it does take quite a bit of time. But with 4 players, I think it'll be a little bit less time. And then, of course, with 2, you're probably talking with the least amount of time, which is probably around an hour and a half or something to that effect. What does the box say? The box says, yeah, 90 to 120 minutes. So your first game is probably going to run you around 3 hours, just because you've got to sift through all of the rules and kind of get a grok on what's going on in the game. And then each game after that will probably be, significantly less. I would probably say everybody that knows how to play the game will probably take around 2 hours, just like the box says. So I think in this case, the box is pretty honest with you about game time, at least after that initial game. Now, having said that, I do wish that the rule book had been written a little bit better. This was hard to sift through. It seemed like information was put in weird spots, and sometimes information that at least we thought was necessary. And again, I'm talking about the times that we played it without Jonathan, because he was very savvy on everything that was going on in the game when we played up there. So we just asked him, and he was like, yeah, this is this. But sometimes the rule book was very difficult to slog through, so I wish that the book had been written a little bit better, maybe arranged in a little bit more of a cohesive manner. But I mean, that being said, we were able to get through it, but the first time was pretty tough, and we had to consult the rule book a lot. So with all this being said, however, this is going to rank really high on my list. I really enjoyed the theme. I've already shown the box insert that comes in every single retail version of the game. That is just an amazing thing. These are everybody that purchases the game will get these different things where you can use them during the game and then use them to store the game when you're not playing it. Just a really great organized box inside, and I think that's amazing that Pandasaurus took that extra step and made sure that they had a really quality box insert on the inside of that. So that's a very cool thing as well. All in all, this gets 2 thumbs way up for me. Of course, I always say try before you buy, but if you like post-apocalyptic type themes and you're not too turned off by picking up and delivering things and that type of stuff, this is going to be right down your alley. I really think that everybody should at least give this a look, give it a try, and I think a lot of people are going to find that they enjoy it pretty much. So that's it from me. We'll see you guys on the flip side.